Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another episode. We will be reacting to Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate, and there's like Jake, there's Nick, and there's Sneako and Aiden and his barber. So we'll be reacting to this, and we'll be cutting this into parts because it's too long. Okay, here we go.
Showing me data and stuff like why he's a man, and I'm like, you don't have to show me anything. I know that that's true because Macron's a little faggot.
Why do you have beef, Nick, with Candace?
I wouldn't say it's beef, but, you know, she gets fired from Daily Wire for saying it's the Jews. And then she starts saying it's not the
Changing the
Jews, it's people pretending to be Jewish. And I just said that's not really true. So we just have a disagreement. She says it's in the Bible. It says they'll call themselves Jews, but they're not. And I said, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the followers of Jacob Frank. I said that could mean a lot of things. But we have a disagreement about it. And we talk privately. We're not really contentious anymore. We're not hostile to each other. But we had a little, there's a little bit of distrust because when you're in the scene and you're controversial and you're telling the truth, there are people, and I don't know Candace. I've only talked to her a handful of times, so I've never met her. But people do come in and out of the scene, and sometimes they are really with us, and sometimes they're pretending to be with us, and I was trying to figure out which one she was. And I think she's on the right side, but we just have a disagreement about how we interpret that part of Revelation. I think it's just the Jews. Just plain, straight up, vanilla. That's who's doing it.
Well,
she says it's complicated.
Nick, I want to ask you a question, man, because, I'm Jewish, man. And what do you think about me overall, like, as a Jew? Do you think that I'm one of the good ones? Do you think that, do you not?
That's gonna be a difficult question. But anyway, about Candace Owens, I think she's been like attacked from several places, especially Jewish organizations, and yeah, because she said the truth. Yeah, she offered the truth that's going on between Palestine and Israel. So yeah, she said the truth, and she got attacked, and she got fired from Daily Wire and so on. And they're making her saying things that she didn't say. Yeah. So let's see what she's gonna respond.
Like, if they're, let me ask you this also. It's a two-part. Wait, Jake, why are you shaking your hands?
Jake, do this.
Real quick though, I think it's a two-parter. Overall, a three-parter. Overall, what do you think about me? Do you like that I'm Jewish? And if you could, what would you do about me being Jewish? You can answer all three. Go ahead.
Well, I like you. I think you're funny. I think you have a good heart. And here's the thing, like, I like Jews in general. I think, it's like every race has their own attributes, like black people, a lot of criminality, but they're also, they
Jake,
also have big hearts.
Don't let him talk to you like that, man.
They're also musical. What's that?
Jake, don't let him talk to you like that.
So, but there's pros and cons. And like with white people are very organized, but then they're also a little cucked and, they listen to their girlfriends too much and whatever.
No.
It's true. They do. There's white people are simps. I hate to break it to you.
All right, fine. That's okay. Number two.
And with Jews, Jews are very funny. They're very intelligent. And so I have friends who are Jewish, and they're some of my favorite people. They're very extroverted. They're hilarious. But at the same time, they're not super trustworthy. Okay,
whoa,
they do. It's just true, and I know it from experience. It's like Andrew said. I said so. They have a talent for deception, and it's the same reason that they're funny, the same reason that they're super smart and good lawyers. It's the same reason they have a talent to spin tales and tell tales.
So do you think
because they're
hold on? Do you think that Jewish people are manipulative?
Oh yeah, all day.
Yeah.
Jake,
that's just true.
And Jake, you black people steal.
We can see this very clearly. We see like Israel saying something and they doing the opposite. Even with the US, even with allies, they agree with things and then later on they do the opposite. Yeah, or they pretend we're not killing babies, but yeah, they're doing this. So yeah.
No.
What do you say, Tristan?
I played this game with a Jewish friend of mine recently. I was sitting as a member of the war room. We were sitting having drinks, very cool guy, because I do have Jewish friends. When you always ask, like, what do you think about me being Jewish, etc. My perception on it is, are you in the group chat or not? Because Aiden, I know there's a secret group chat that controls all this crap, and if you're not in it, then cool. It's all about who's in the group chat. Who's not. I was thinking this Jewish friend of mine, and I basically said very similar to Nick. I said, look, we're gonna play a word association game. I'm gonna say a crime, and you're gonna say a race. Okay? I said gun violence in inner cities.
Black.
Smuggling drugs and people across the U.S. border.
Mexicans.
Using banking powers and lobbying groups to subvert politicians. So I was like, look, bro, I can take it as a half black man. I can take the fact that we're the ones shooting up the inner.
They know each one what does he do, but yeah, we don't generalize at all. And Islam is not for a specific group; it's for everyone. It's not for a specific race. So that's the uniqueness about Islam, because it's for everyone.
Cities. Look, I'll take that L. I'm not in the group chat. I'm not in the gangbangers, let's go smoke this nigger group chat. That's not what I'm about as a half black man.
Yo, oh my God.
Group chat, Aiden, you see? You're just a guy who's Jewish, like my Jewish friends, which is fine. If you're in the group chat, I got to be careful about you. I don't know if you use Telegram, Signal, WhatsApp, if you got your own little thing.
Tristan,
I know there's a secret group chat that you're not in.
Tristan, I'm not in it, I promise.
Good.
All right,
So
wait.
let me ask Nick a question.
They justify saying some words or adopting some general attributes because they are with certain color. But yeah, I don't think this is like, it should be like accepted. Like they say we are half race, yeah, and they just accept using these terms, and they are not okay to be attacked for that. But yeah, I don't think you should be okay with calling you names or considering you within a specific category. So I think, yeah, we should be like treating each other equally or with the same way that we are being treated.
Question, because you understand the Jewish scenario. I mean, I understand it, but you understand it probably deeper than me. But would you argue that Jews are doing... Okay, let me make sure I word this correctly. Jews feel threatened because they're not a majority, which means they're using the organizational skills of the white man to constantly subvert and retain power. So the question is, aren't Jews doing what white people should be doing, but because there's so little of them, they feel enough threat to get it done?
100%. 100%. I mean, that's what defines them, is that they are up until recently, they were a diaspora people, meaning they had no land, they had no territory. And even before that, they were subjugated and enslaved. So they have a strong group identity, and they're histrionic. You know, like if you make a Jew joke and you don't have rapport, they'll say it's another Holocaust. If you say like, you know, any Jew joke you could think of, Ash,
You will be considered anti-Semite.
Trey, this, then that. They'll say, this is anti-Semitism, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. They have like this reflexive, histrionic fear of anti-Semitism because of the history of persecution, expulsion, all those things. Now, we could look at the reasons for that, but that's just what defines them. And so, as a result, like, for example, Israel, they go and bomb everybody and they say, well, we were out there defending ourselves. That'd be like if I went to my neighbor and like shot everyone in the house and said, hey man, self-defense. I mean, you know, I was in the living room hanging out. You came downstairs. I had to kill.
Nick,
that's what they do.
Sneako was telling me that there's Muslims that live in Israel. That's true.
And Christians.
You're aware about Jerusalem used to be a really traditionally mixed area. Al-Aqsa Mosque is in Israel as well.
Okay,
But
so
the point being is they take that to this wild extreme where they say, in order to defend ourselves, we need our own country. In order for us to have our own country, we need to be terrorists like the early Zionists. In order for us to defend our country, we have to invade our neighbors. We have
That's what it means to take a country by force.
to machinate and do, you know, lobbying in the United States and all of that. You know, like in the 73 war, Israel was almost defeated by the Arabs, and the prime minister of Israel said, if America doesn't send us this giant airlift of weapons, we'll just nuke everybody. And it's like, but they're taking their survival to this logical conclusion and extreme. And it's like Andrew said, it's Darwinism. If white people had that same mindset, you know, we would be seeking to empower ourselves But we don't have that same fear because white people are comfortable, we're altruistic, we're in the majority. A lot of white people aren't even conscious of race because they don't need to be, because they grew up in a white neighborhood. And so they go out into the world. It's like Andrew said too about courts. They don't know how it is in other places because to them, race, they're comfortable with it being a construct because it's not an imminent reality for them. For Jews, they grew up their whole lives knowing they're different from everybody. They celebrate Hanukkah, not Christmas. They get told stories, all their holidays about them being persecuted and them being attacked by the Romans or the Persians or the Babylonians. And so they have this like survival instinct, which leads them to amass power and dominate. And yeah, like white people should do the same thing. I 100% agree. Almost don't even hold it against them. But they need to recognize that, there are white countries.
They all speak about persecution, and they ignore who did the persecution. Yeah, it was definitely Christians. Like they were like with Christianity religion. They were not doing it in the name of all of them, not doing all in the name of Christianity, but they were Christians. For example, Hitler, for example, the Spanish Inquisition. They were like being persecuted here, all around the world, except for the Arab countries, the Arabic countries or the Muslim countries. They took them in and they provided shelter. For example, there are still Jews living today in Yemen and some in Tunisia, some in Algeria. These countries have some Jewish people and living peacefully. Because they ran from these countries of Europe and other countries, and they came to the Muslim countries for shelter. And Muslim saved the Jews from extinction several times through history.
Reason white people should be able to thrive, and we should be partners, not pawns or puppets. And that's where Jews have what you call chutzpah.
Now people appreciating the Judo-Christian value, or whatever they call this term. Well, what value? Like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you were being persecuted, and now they call it Christian Jew values. What value? And they think they call Muslims some names in terrorism, whatever. Bro, go read history.
They come into the country and they act like it's their home and they tell people what to do and so on. And, that's not respectful. That's not harmonious. It stems from their religion. And their religion, it says that they're people and we're animals. It says that they have souls and we don't. It is true.
But
but listen, personally, me, I don't look at you guys as animals. I don't.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just made it worse.
I appreciate that. I don't see you as an animal. I see you as a human being.
Wait, okay, can you answer my third question, though, really quick? If you could do something about me being Jewish, would you? Or would you just keep me the way I am?
I would convert you to being Catholic, but
what about,
I think that...
So what's the difference?
Yeah.
What about, I'm not trying to turn you two against each other, but what about Islam, right? So, there's a lot of similarities in Judaism and Islam. There is, like we were talking.
There are similarities between Christianity and Islam, and there are similarities between Judaism and Islam. But that doesn't make us look away from the differences, because differences are huge.
Talking about it with.
We will be comparing religions, the video after this one, inshallah. Yeah. And there's already a video on YouTube, but we'll be reacting on that and making some corrections about Islam, about other religions as well. The majority perspective.
More similarities between Christianity and Islam.
Agreed.
The main
In some
similarity.
ways.
I don't think that's true.
No, it is. Look, the main similarity is that we respect Jesus. We love Jesus as a prophet, peace be upon him. Christians see him as God. Jews, they don't. Jews rejected him, and that's how Christianity started.
But Jesus Christ was Jewish.
Religious argument, but I just want to just.
Not only rejecting Jesus or Isa, peace be upon him, but also Muhammad, peace be upon him. So if you reject Muhammad, then who would you follow? What teachings would you follow? Do you have like narrations of Moses, for example, or David or Solomon, their daily practices? Do you have like chain of narration or preservation of the text or the day-to-day life they were living? No, you don't. So what are you basing your morality on? Yeah. So if your scripture is not preserved, if the teachings of your prophet is not preserved, so what else would you follow?
because I want to understand that. I want to see if you see it the same way I do, because I believe that scared dogs bite, and I believe the Jews are naturally afraid, and that's the reason they're so psychopathic, is because they're afraid. And you quite pertinently pointed out that they felt different their whole lives. They know they're different. They have a national identity, and we're talking about how white people should be doing what they're doing to protect themselves. And then, would you also agree that they're subverting white nations because they consider white people the most organized and serious threat?
Yeah,
Is
that's what World War II, the myth of World War II is all about, because the mantra after World War II was never again. Never again can there be a Hitler and a Holocaust. And by the way, I agree with that. But they said, no, we cannot, we would say something like, yeah, countries shouldn't genocide people, totally. But what they took it a step further, and they said, well, what led to Hitler? And they said, fathers, love of nation, love of God. They said, and they called it the authoritarian personality. Yeah, go ahead.
Nick, you're saying that, or sorry, Andrew, you said that like the Jews are like scared, right? We're scared. Of what exactly? I mean, you guys are also saying that Jews run.
Because they took the land forcefully, it was not legal, people didn't just accept it. Oh, he take my land. And it's also surrounded by Arab and Muslim countries around them. So yeah, they should be scared, but that doesn't allow them to like fight or do these like expand, let's say. Because they have like this bigger plan, they want to expand or whatever. Bro, this land is not yours from the first place. Yeah.
The world, right? So what would we technically be scared of? I'm not a Jew who runs the world. I'm not. I give nobody any shape or form. Go ahead.
There's when I said scared dogs bite, I mean they're afraid that they're going to be wiped out. They're afraid for their existence, and this is why they are so protective
well,
of
there was a Holocaust.
They want the narrative to change, and they want to have Israel
And why they're so little? If you Google how many Jews are there, I think there are just 6 million or something like that. That's compared to Muslims, which are 2 billions, and Christians, which are 2.4 billions. And Islam is the fastest growing religion, not by birth, by conversion. And the point is, they're scared because for Jews, they're not looking for new people coming to the religion, because they believe the religion is transmitted to the next generation by DNA, by being like pure white race or whatever. So the whole religion is based on racism. So I don't think like for someone to follow such religion, and even if they accept you, you'll just be second-class Jew. You're not gonna be like original Jew. So who's gonna choose that? Who's gonna pick that? I don't.
As Nick pointed out, they're very aggressive, and when a dog is aggressive, it's a scared dog. A dog that's not scared isn't aggressive. They're aggressive, and they believe that anyone at any time might kill them and might come for them. They're nervous. They're jittery. That's how they are. That's why they'll go to war so easily. It's why they'll invade countries. It's why they'll commit genocide. It's why they'll do such heinous things, because they're afraid. When you're afraid, you do heinous things. And the white man perhaps isn't very afraid, which is why he's not reacting very much to anything.
The fuck is that on your ear?
Fear. He doesn't feel the fear, but fear is a very powerful motivator inside of the human psyche. In fact, I don't know why I'm getting thumbs up, but fear is probably the most powerful motivator inside of the human psyche. So I think that they feel scared and they feel afraid, and that's why they're constantly searching for power and constantly trying to subvert all other power structures, is because they know that they're threatened. If you don't feel threatened, you're not going to react. That's just how things are. You're not going to take preventative measures. At least if you live in a hostile area, you're going to put a big fancy door on your house because you're scared. You're going to get guns because you're scared. If you don't feel any threats, you're not going to. So I feel like perhaps they just feel intimidated. They feel threatened. And they know, especially now that they pissed the world off, so they're even more threatened, more intimidated, because they know that they're less liked. And they see the white countries and the white man as the most organized and formidable enemy, because they fear organized enemies. They don't fear randomized enemies. They fear an organized group of people coming along and taking their influence away, because if they lose their influence, then they feel like they're going to be destroyed.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only time, guys, that's the only time white people are going to get their act together.
And why they're looking for a specific country? Like they want a specific country for them. Like we're Jews, we're looking for a country. What? I mean, Muslims are like 20% Arabs, like 80% other nationalities. So why they're so worried? You know, just open vacancies in your religion and say, okay, come, people can become Jews now, whatever, and you'll just, yeah. But the idea of being like exclusively for DNA, white race, originally like from mother or father, that were Jews, you can only be Jew, and they want like a specific country. Why would you like want a specific country? I don't know. I don't know why US is not giving them like any state, but or UK, because in the first place it was given by UK with no rights.
Once
Yeah.
it's too late.
Yeah.
Once
but like,
it's too late, they're going to wake up and they're going to go, oh shit. When you try and prevent the bad thing from happening before it's too late, then you're crazy, then you're a conspiracy theorist, then you're a bad person. But once it's too late, they'll all mobilize and they'll do anything it takes to try and survive. That's just that's human nature, unfortunately.
yes, sir. Question though, do you agree that like, I mean, I know your answer, but what about like a Jew like me, right? Not like a Jew with authority, like a Jew that's me as me, okay? Do you think that I'm a bad Jew? Do you think that I'm a bad person for being Jewish?
Is that me? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't look at it that way. You just people have ties to certain things. This actually goes back into what we were saying earlier about thick and thin cultures, right? The idea that people in Dubai all want to be in Dubai because they can make money and they're all loyal enough to Dubai, etc. If the Jews are loyal to Judaism above everything else, then you're automatically going to subvert everything besides Judaism. People often confuse being a hateful person with being a person full of love. People confuse this. If you love anything, then you are going to dislike things opposite to that you love. They will call you hateful for saying that I love white people. No, you just love white people. So you want to see white babies and white families and white nations because you love white people. You can't love something without also being called hateful the other way. There's equal and opposite force. So if they are in love with Judaism above all things, then they'll subvert all things besides Judaism, which means they'll subvert all things besides Israel, which includes America. So then the question is, well, if they're going to subvert everything besides the only thing they care about, do you want these people having any power over things they do not care about? This is a pretty logical conversation.
Are you checking the group chat, Aiden?
Yeah, they texted me. They said we got to stop talking about this.
Good catch.
No, keep going.
They said they're going to come knock on your door.
Isn't it
Keep
just
going.
where
Boom, boom, boom.
it's just
FBI,
where
open
loyalties land? And perhaps they're so loyal to their history and
Well, I
loyal
think
to their
everyone's loyal
identity.
to everyone,
and all
right?
that.
So
That's what makes them
Andrew.
powerful.
I think everyone's loyal to everyone, right? So like, if you introduce, like, I mean, even Sneako told me, like, there's a clip of like somebody introducing me to somebody like, oh, he's a Jewish kid. But there's also like when you guys introduce, I don't want to talk about religion, but for example, when you introduce yourself and you're like, oh, well, he's a Muslim, whatever, you guys will say something. So you were telling me, it's like the same thing. It's like you guys have that in common. It's not like it's some type of like cult or like some crazy fucking thing you got going on. It's just like, oh well, he's a Muslim.
Well, I'll argue right here that Muslims are loyal to Islam above most things as well, which just adds to the problem. I mean, I don't know about America. I'll talk about England, but England, where I grew up in a town which was 80% Muslim, Luton, and Muslims are loyal to Islam above they are loyal to the government, and above their loyalty to England, and above their loyalty to most things. They're loyal to Islam above all things.
Loyal to God always.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't be at all. I'm saying that they are. You have to be logical and have conversations without getting emotionally invested like a child and sit and say, okay, do you want X amount of people inside of a country, X amount of subsect of the populace which are loyal to something different than the country itself, which will change the face of the nation forever? That's the conversation. Because everyone's loyal to something. If you have a football team, you have black people, white people, Muslims, Jews, everyone on the same football team. They're loyal to the football team. They all try and win. That's fine. Great. But when you're talking about a country, when you have people coming to the country who are loyal to things besides the country and they're prepared to exploit the country for the benefit of that group instead, then you have to ask yourself, do you want those people in the country at all? That's a pretty sensible conversation to have, isn't it? Like, would I allow someone into my house who didn't have the best intentions for me and the household? I think
That's not really on point, because you see, like when the terrorist attack happened in UK, and they said, oh, it's a Muslim, but then it appeared like it was a Christian boy. He was like 12 years old, So he was like citizen. He didn't come by any boat or whatever Andrew said in the past. So he was like a Christian from Christian family. He was like I think 14 years old. He was from Christian family. He was a citizen of UK. And then he like a few days later, you know, there was a Muslim who saved a family by someone who was coming and stabbing a girl, and the Muslim he was working security, and he jumped out and he just you know, stopped that guy and dropped his knife away, and he kept holding him until the police came. So you see like people coming from different country, they're saving people from that country, and the people who are doing like 90% or 95% of the crimes are citizen of that country. Like even the country that I live in, people coming like from different countries, but they're living by the law, living by everything like this, like normal. But the people who are doing the crimes, like I sometimes hear gunshots outside or something like that. It's just people, you know, fighting between each other. Like you see these things day to day in the streets, in the neighbor, wherever. Sometimes it's not like being revealed to the news, yeah, but we hear things, we see things, but it's very, very rarely the people coming from different country, because the guy who coming from different country already have this perspective that he wants to keep abiding by the law of that country, and he's worried that anytime they will just kick him out or take him to different place or whatever. So he's already like feeling that he's like a guest. So he's trying to keep like his morals to the best limit. So yeah, we see that the most crimes are being done by the citizens themselves.
I don't think that would make sense.
But
But
that's
when you
always
say
going to
these
happen
things, believe it or not.
with faith. Muslims are always going to show allegiance to God in front of the nation, because there's nothing that's more important than God. And that's where I see the issue, because that's why I know that Judaism is a false religion, and the same with why I think Christianity is a false religion. But Islam,
I like that he
is only
just saying that just to their face.
pure loyalty to God and God alone. The reason
because when you say a statement, you need like they ask you for clarification. You need to be ready to clarify. Why do you say my religion is false? Yes. So I guess like he was ready when he said that.
that Judaism, why there's an issue with the power, because I never said it was all Jews that are, I think it is. I think it's the Zionists that show allegiance to the racial aspect of Judaism rather than the religious aspect. And there is no racial aspect in Islam. There's no racial in Islam. As long as you're Muslim, then you're.
True to that. There's no race for Islam.
We're all the same under God. In Christianity, for example, I see what Nick is doing and why it's commendable. But we've disagreed upon this, and why I think that there's a small flaw is that he sees the issue with Zionism and how ethnicity is tied to faith, and it's almost like he wants to do the same thing. And I would like to see what his response to this is. But you see the Zionist problem and how it's tied to ethnicity and faith, and so you talk about how we need white Christians, white Catholics. But there's no idea of whiteness, or there's no idea of race that's written into Catholicism.
You have never heard like black Muslim or white Muslim. Well, there's no color in Islam. It's very, very clear cut in the Quran and in the Hadith of the Prophet. It's that Allah does not look at your shapes and colors. Allah looks at your hearts. Yeah. In akramakum indallahi atqakum. The closest of you to God is the most noble and good in righteousness. Yeah.
Catholicism.
Yeah, I mean, my response
So I already like have the goal straight correct. So you don't have to worry about these things right and left. Yeah.
to that is what we were talking about earlier. There is a tension between the fact that you're right, Islam and Catholicism are both universal religions, meaning anyone could be a part of it. Judaism is
Yeah, that's the point that I spoke about. Yeah.
not. Judaism believes that they are a people. If you're according to Jewish law, if your mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. And they really don't encourage conversion. A lot of people don't even recognize conversion. A lot of Jews don't. That's why on Israel, Citizenship is awarded on the basis of ethnicity. They call it birthright. If you're born a Jew, you'd be a citizen of Israel. Catholicism says anyone that gets the sacraments is a Christian, and Muslims believe anyone that says the Shahada and does the almsgiving and all those things, you're a Muslim. And the tension is, does that abrogate nationhood and race? And I would say it doesn't. Thomas Aquinas, the Catholic Catechism, they both say that, there are distinct, discrete nations. There are real nations. And, a country can have immigrants and take refugees and things like that. But the refugees it takes generations for them to be seen as equal. It says that in the Catechism. Aquinas says that. It says that they have to respect the country and the culture of the people in it. And what we have going on right now isn't even immigration. It is designed to socially engineer the country. And by the way, when America is like 10% white, it's not going to be more Catholic. It's not going to be more Christian. It's going to be barbaric, chaotic. It's going to be a never-ending race war. So the idea that like multiracialism and population transfers has something to do with Catholicism, it doesn't make the world more Catholic. There's nothing in our religion that says we have to accept it. Race is real too, and nationhood is real too. And even within Christendom, you had nations, just like within Islam. You have a caliphate, but right now you have nations. And there's different sects. You have Shiites and Sunnis and Alawites, and the Houthis are a different type. And, the thing with Zionism is different because they really do believe.
Those are not sects. Those are like not all of them sects. And Shia is like 10% of the total Muslims. It's like only 10%. And they carry the same belief of the creed, but they have some additional stuff. Yeah, the creed is the same, or for the majority. Yeah, but it's case by case, as the scholar said. Yeah, as a Shia person, case by case. It's not like all of them are totally Muslims.
According to Kabbalah and the Talmud, according to Rabbi Schneerson, who they believe, the Rebbe, they believe he's the Messiah. A lot of the Hasidic Jews do. He said that Gentiles don't have souls. Like, we're not ensouled in the way that Jews are. And that's why they say we have the Noahide laws, and they have to abide by the Talmud and the Mishnah and all that stuff. So it is like baked into the cake with them. It's an ethno-religion. So the religion and the race are inseparable. And I would say the difference is, by the way, that's why they're given to hatred. They write articles and they say there's a virtue in hating Palestinians. When October...
They teach children in the school to hate the Arabs and to hate the Muslims. In the school, imagine, first grade, at 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. First grade, second grade, third grade, they teach children to hate a specific people. Like, what kind of people are they?
7th happened, they said, kill them all, finish the job. They're inflicting collective punishment. And that's because they don't value human life the same way. A lot of them don't. Catholics say, even our enemies, we pray for them. Even our enemies, especially our enemies, we pray for them and show mercy and compassion. So there is a real, I don't think it's fair to say just because, we don't want our race to die that, it's comparable to Zionism. And Zionism, too, is particularly about the land. They say it's that land, that people, that temple, and restoring the temple so that they can get a Messiah and restart the sacrifices and then rule the world. So there's a victimhood that makes them the way they are. It is also this prophecy. Like, if you read Jewish literature, they're obsessed. They're afraid of assimilation. It's not only that they're afraid of persecution, and they hate Catholic kings because Catholic kings persecuted them, and they hate the Tsar because the Tsar segregated them, and they hate Hitler because Hitler...
No, he admitted that.
tried to genocide them. But what they...
Tried to genocide them, yes, tried. Yeah, he could have failed.
They also resist is assimilation. They don't want to intermarry. They don't want to adopt everybody's culture. And that's why they've persisted for thousands of years. They're preoccupied with that. And these religious communities, they're preoccupied with staying together, returning to the land, rebuilding the temple, and doing the sacrifices because it's a temple in a...
The Jews always lived in peace in Palestine under Islam rulers. Yeah? But when it was Christians or Jews, they definitely ruined it. Like, you can even see it in the Kingdom of Heaven. I already mentioned that in the last live stream. And the Kingdom of Heaven, the movie, when Salahuddin came to the land and the Christian king, or the second king, he said, we have butchered your women and children. He said, I will not do that. I'm Salahuddin. So I will deal with you as my religion tells me. And they even killed his sister. Yeah. So it shows you in the movie that was made in Hollywood, they told the truth. Yeah. So they could easily manipulate the movie and change everything. And they showed how he picked up the cross and put it on the table as a sign that he respected these religions. And we as Muslims, we as direct the order from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to in the terms of war, like when there is war, it's not permissible to harm a woman or a child or non-combatant man or an old man or a tree or a sheep or any animal, not even properties or houses, not even the worshipping buildings. That's in war, like not let alone in peace. So we have like these orders, yeah.
Land and a race-based religion. And without all those things, you don't have Judaism. And that's what makes it a real problem. It's like Andrew said it perfectly. When they run our country or they influence our country, it's like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro cares more about Israel than America. And if America were at war with Israel, you know what side he would be on. Should he be influencing our politics? No. And so many of the conservative media, they're literally IDF, like Prager University, huge educational outlet. The CEO is a former Israeli intelligence operative. Do you think like foreign intelligence officers should be manipulating American politics? Obviously, there's a conflict of interest. And that's the problem. It's not a prejudice. I don't hate Jews for being Jews. I actually like them. You know, some of them are very funny and intelligent. But, you know, when it's about loyalty. Are you loyal to country? Or are you loyal to the people of Israel and world Jewry?
That's a good point. That's a good point by Nick.
For many Jews, it's the latter.
Yeah, and this is some of the confusion I've had. Because obviously I'm Islamic and I agree with Sneako about God and saying how Muslims worship God above all things. I respect all of that. But
he agreed with this Nico, but I think they exchanged some Twitters a few days ago about that's why I stopped talking to you and blah blah blah. So I think they had like a little fight on Twitter, but now I see like they're speaking again. So yeah, it's nice.
don't see it as anti-Islamic for me to sit and say, me knowing how Muslims view Islam and knowing how we put that above all things, I understand why Christians wouldn't want us to come to their country. I am logical enough to understand why they wouldn't want people who do not respect their religion to the same degree they do, or don't even respect their laws. They respect Allah's law above the laws of the land. I don't think it's anti-Islamic to say I totally understand why they don't want us to come then. Is that anti-Islamic? What's wrong with that? That makes sense, right? Because it's loyalty to, I mean, if you're going to have a country, what you want is loyalty to the nation. This is the thing that the nations, like, let's say Russia. The reason we hate Russia so much, when I say we, I mean the West. The reason the West hates Russia so much is because they're loyal to Russia. They're loyal to the motherland, and they're prepared to die for it. That's what they hate about Russia. It's just nationalistic. They can't stand that it's nationalistic.
Yeah, they cannot buy people. Yeah, because you see some leaders, they can be bought, but there are some top leaders that cannot be bought. You know, you either invade and kill their president in the most, yeah.
And they'll do anything to destroy it for that one reason.
Or fight the country by economy. Yeah, you just either invade them, or fight their economy, or just fight them on media, like consider them enemies and show people the bad image of that country so that everyone can hate them.
Reason alone.
Like they did to Islam, I guess. Yeah, because they cannot, they will never be able to fight off Islam.
Because nationalism is what they fear, because men are prepared to die on.
Because it's a way of God. The only way that's accepted by God, the only religion that's accepted by God. You know, most of people believe in God. Whether I don't know what's your religion, but I guess 80% of people believe in God, and the other 20% they believe in God, but they choose to reject it. So it's 100% people believe there's God, or at least know there's possibility of God. So they need to look up these revelations, or whatever people call revelations. So they should read all the books. In my opinion, you can read the Tanakh, the Talmud, or the Bible and the Quran. You can read and check yourself. Yeah, check if there are contradictions, check if there are errors, check if there are mistakes. yeah, and reach the conclusion of what's our purpose, why we are here, right? Because nobody seems to know the direct answer. Like, you are here because you need to do this. Yeah. So you should read this book and take the teachings, take the who's claiming to be God, who's claiming to be divine. Because in the Bible, you cannot clearly see that Jesus claiming to be God. He never claimed to be God. And in the Quran, you can directly understand who is God, what God wants from you, what you should do, what's the end result of this life, what's the two results in the end, heaven, hell, how is paradise is, how hell is, like in details. It's explained in details. So I think you should look this up, and you have no excuse.
On the spot for something, and that's the number one thing they're afraid of. So if you're a Muslim in Russia, because Russia is very multi-ethnic, you can be Islamic, you can be Christian. In fact, a lot of people are surprised by how Islamic Russia is. When I was in Moscow, I saw headscarves everywhere, like Turkey. It's extremely Islamic, but they're all Russian, and they all love Russia, right? But if you had a sect or a religion in Russia that viewed their religion as above Russia in all ways, I feel like then there'd be some difficulty there. I feel like they still manage to stay nationalistic even though there's different religions. So I understand why white Christians sit and say we don't want Muslims to come here. That doesn't mean I don't believe in Islam. I'm just not personally offended because I just understand their point of view. I don't see what's anti-Islamic about saying I get it.
Well, I mean, that's something that white Christians would agree with. They would all put their faith above their nationalism at all times. I don't want white Christian or just especially Western nations to make the same mistake that Israel's making, and why they're the source of so much destruction in the world right now and so much warfare. Because if you put allegiance to your nation above allegiance to God, that's how things get corrupted. That's how you see the warfare that's happening right now.
Yeah, that's a good fact, because now this stream is 2 hours 20 minutes, but I already passed 1 whole hour, and I was just showing you, I think maybe 50 minutes this will be. So the first hour they were speaking about white people, how white people are losing and they're being decreased, and they're other colors are being more than white people, or they're losing the authority or whatever. So yeah, just like we said, people, if I say I will help you because you are the same color as me or the same ethnic as me, yeah, people are not gonna get to nowhere. Yeah. Or if you say this is like this country, or this have this teachings or this way of life that goes against God or whatever, so we have to follow. Yeah.
I mean, even then, Nick, when you're going off about what's bad about Israel and about how Zionists get corrupted because they don't want intermarriage or they don't want people to assimilate into their culture, aren't those slight pushback? Aren't those two things that you agree with? Don't you not want people to race mix, and you also don't want much immigration? You don't want people to assimilate or change the white Christian identity in the West?
I don't think it's corrupt. You guys talk about corruption. That's like an Islamic theological thing. You talk about the corruption of the Bible and so on. I don't think it's corrupting at all. I think it makes sense because they view their bloodline as very special. And so that they're actually adhering to their.
What is he speaking about, bro? Christian scholars themselves, they admit there are corruption and there are changes in the Bible, and there are contradictions in the Bible, and they don't know even who wrote these. Like Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, they're unknown. If you only know the first name, you don't know his surname, you don't know his family name, you don't even the chain of the people who lived after him, to say, yes, we have met this, yes, we have, generation reporting to the next generation. No, you don't, this person is there's nothing above him, there's nothing below him. He's just one person, unknown person. How do you say this, bro?
Religion. That's not a corruption of Judaism. That's a fulfillment of Judaism. The whole Old Testament is about lineage. If you go on a Christmas Mass, they read out literally the lineage from Adam to Jesus Christ, from the first man until Jesus, and they talk about the whole lineage. They're obsessed with it. And some Jews say they have a book literally of every Jew.
Even Muslims or even Arabs which have the most recorded things. Like they record everything, and they have this chain of narration. They even from Ishmael to Muhammad, peace be upon him. You know, there's this lineage. Yeah, and as Arabs, we still keep this lineages, like from the time of the Prophet until today. Like in my lineage, there's like 44 people until Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Yeah, so we care about these things because we care about family value. Yeah, we appreciate the family value, and it's not permissible. The fornication, the adultery is not permissible, and the homosexuality is not permissible. Anything goes against the family value is not permissible in Islam. So when Andrew Tate is speaking about this country doesn't allow Muslims to come, why would you not allow Muslims to come? And when they run low of populations, they open up doors and say, come, we need you. Yeah, of course. That's why they open the borders for illegal immigration, because they turned everyone in their country as homo, and they need people to repopulate their.
For thousands and thousands of years, they have all the names because there's not very many of them. And so, no, it's not a corruption of their religion. And I would say that, once again,
yes, it is.
It's like just because Europe is Christian doesn't mean that Europe doesn't have a right to exist. That's why Europeans evangelized the world. When Europe went out and colonized the world.
Everyone have the right to exist. That's why God created us. That's why in Islam there's no slavery. Like when Islam first was revived on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there was zero slavery. Like everyone was free, literally free. Yeah, because the Prophet Muhammad, he have a direct order that whoever enslave a person, that he will never see heaven, because this person is not yours to be slave. Like he's already a slave. Like if a person is a slave, you cannot enslave him because he's already a slave. So we all are slave to God. We're all slaves to God. So between us, we don't have the right to enslave another person or a human, because if I enslave a human, I will commit shirk. Like shirk is associating partners with God, because he will be slave to God and slave to me. So now I made association. I made myself equivalent to God, and this is like the biggest mistake, the biggest sin in Islam is to associate partners to God. So the whole slavery in Islam is there's no such a thing.
We brought Christianity, and the New World was made Christian by the Spanish and parts of Africa.
So he's saying that everyone have a right to live. Yeah, everyone have the right to live. Yeah, whether you're Jew, Christian, whether you like Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, atheist, agnostic, all of us have the right to exist, and all of us have like a specific age, like 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, whatever. And through these years, you have to figure yourself. You have to figure out why you exist. What's your purpose in this life? Yeah, and you have heard it definitely. This life is a test, so you have to find out the solutions, what the response, like who we are, what we are doing here, what's our purpose. Yeah, so you have to figure this out during this age. So if you just settle down and you just said, "Oh, I'm just gonna believe what my parents are believing," it's not gonna get you anywhere. Yeah, so you gotta make sure.
Africa were made Christian by the European colonists. And, we want the world to be Christian, but we don't want the world to be in the only Christian countries, which were up until hundreds of years ago in Europe, because then there's no more of us. And so, again, I just don't understand. Again, in the Catholic religion, there's nothing that says we can't exist as a nation. On the contrary, Pope Francis said that we should maintain the different nations. He's pro-refugee, thinks we should be compassionate, but he also doesn't believe that, he says that white people should have kids. The Pope said that. So
isn't it a bit hypocritical to say to Christians that as long as people are Christian, they are okay to come into white Christian nations, considering that even in the Islamic world, we still have countries and we still have borders and we still have sects like Iran and Iraq, and these countries a lot of them don't even like each other. A lot of them have gone to war. Like, in the Islamic world, we don't say you're Muslim, so everyone's allowed everywhere. In fact, Qatar and Bahrain and Kuwait.
These wars are political. It's not related to religion. But yeah, I see where he's going.
and some of the richest Islamic nations have the strongest immigration there is.
the world.
And Dubai doesn't just, UAE doesn't just let anyone in who's Muslim. No, you have to apply and you have to do it right. And you have to do it by the law and you're not allowed to break the border. And so I just feel like when we say as Muslims, we put Islam above countries. So as long as you're Muslim, everything's fine. I don't know if most Islamic nations even do that. Isn't that just a lie to try and once again convince Christians to just genocide the white race?
As I said again, it's a political thing. It's not like a religious thing. And if you look at Dubai, for example, the example you gave, you see like, I think one of the people who asked this question a few days ago, that if UAE is a Muslim country, why there are bars and these things like clubs or whatever? But yeah, but this is their choice. This is someone, a living person, making a choice by his own free will that God gave. Yeah. So whether he choose right, whether he choose wrong, that's only known by God. Yeah, and God's gonna judge each one of us on his own, like not as a group of society. It's not like God's gonna hold all like the UAE people, like Emirates people, all of them, and judge them together at once. No, like each person is gonna be held accountable by his own self, like your choices. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's difficult for example, the Arab countries, or even some countries, that developing countries, to get into Dubai or UAE or even some other countries in the Gulf. But it's easier for like Indians or Pakistanis or Afghani to go there and have opportunities or working opportunities. Yeah, I think it's just politics. Yeah, it's not related to the religion.
Did you shave your whole body?
Not yet. I gotta do my back too. Sorry, I know it's a little bit disturbing for you guys.
Yeah, it's a bit traumatic. It's first thing in the morning. I don't need to be seeing this shade.
Sorry.
Fine. I've got those black jeans. I've got nothing.
But no, on a serious point, like what Islamic country, and this is a genuine question, as a Muslim, what Islamic country puts Islam above everything else? Because there's tribes in Afghanistan.
Today, there's no single country that's considered fully Muslim, like fully implementing the law of God, that's how God wants things to be run. I think there's no such country today living by all the laws. Yeah, you can see some laws are being taken here. Even in West and even Europe, they're taking some laws that's being been gave by God. Yeah. They don't even know that, but they follow some certain rules. Like for example, in Christianity, they say if someone slaps you, you should give them the other cheek. Yeah, but they're not doing that. If someone attacks their country, they're gonna retaliate. Yeah, or they're just gonna fight back or defend themselves. So they're not acting like their religion. They're acting like Muslims, but they don't even know it.
Afghanistan. There's tribes in Iran. Iran is I mean, I'm not saying the country can't be unified with different ethnicities. They are, but the ethnicities are still recognized. The ethnicities still exist. There's still country borders. There's still immigration laws. There's still all the things that we tell the West are not allowed to have.
And to take that a step further, when Nick is saying about Jews not wanting to intermarry, etc., that a lot of that exists within Muslim countries themselves. There are people in Iraq who don't describe themselves as Iraqi. They say they're Kurds. We're Kurdistan. We need our own country. We need Kurdistan. I'm only going to marry a Kurdish woman because I want to have Kurdish kids. All Muslims, all from the same country, all holding Iraqi passports. There are certain sects, even within Islam and Muslim countries, that don't intermarry and won't date people from outside of their own little culture and their.
Again, this is a political and cultural thing. Yeah, it's only related to political. Like it's not related to Islam. Like if you come by Islam, you can marry any woman you want. Yeah, you can even marry for a male Muslim. He can marry any woman if she's Muslim, or if she's like Christian or Jew, or following the book. We call them people of the book, but she should be like believing in one God and following the scripture. It's not like just just a Jew or just a Christian by name. Yeah, should be like not like Christians but living as a liberal. Yeah, should be like Christian but following Christianity as it is.
Our own little area anyway.
So yeah, the argument here is a political again, as Andrew was saying.
So isn't it a massive psyop to then say to Christians, well, they're a Christian from Rwanda, so just let them come. It's all going to be the same because you're all Christian, because Muslims don't do that.
No, I'm not saying that they should just let in Christians. I'm saying the most important thing has to be the brotherhood within the ummah. And it's not
By the way, not shaving the body, like the body in the middle and the chest and everything. I think the Prophet Muhammad, he never shaved his like chest or the body. Yeah, so I think it's sunnah to leave it be. Yeah, to not shave it.
nationalism. There's nothing that says that you can't be nationalistic, but that's what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that's what he was sent to
Alayhi salatu
separate.
wassalam.
There were all these tribes in the Arabic region, different pagan religions divided from that. When people put their nationalism first, when they said this tribe is the most important thing, that's how they ended up worshiping idols. That's how they ended up being divided. Islam came and that united so many people across the world. Once again, the biggest Islamic country is not even in the Middle East. It's in, I'm pretty sure it's Indonesia.
Yeah, he's right. And before the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you see like how people were treating others, like they're treating women badly. When people had like babies, if it's like a female baby, they used to bury her alive. And they had like slaves, like before Prophet Muhammad, there was slaves, and most of these slaves were black people, like they were from dark skin. Yeah. So when Islam came, everyone was equal. Like everyone was literally equal. So that's when the two groups happen. The groups of Muslim, where everyone is equal in front of God, whether you're like rich, poor, black, white, young, old, man, woman, everyone's equal in the sight of God. But you have the other group is like, no, we have to practice our old practice. We have to follow the religion of our forefathers, and we have to do whatever we like, whatever we think is correct. Yeah, we should have slaves. Like, why are you taking this thing from us? Yeah. So that's what happened like back then in the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
So by now saying that this group, like we're just gonna gather around and call ourselves white, or gather around and call ourselves black, or gather around and call ourselves like certain country, Saudis, Emiratis, Iraqis, Kuwaitis, yeah? If you're calling yourself like a specific name, not other than Muslim, because that's the name that God chose to the people who are following the religion of God, the correct religion of God. God says He is the one who called you Muslims. So God named us Muslims. So if we called ourselves potato or white people or Saudi people or this people or that people, we're just picking another name that is not good for us. Yeah. So God already telling us, this is the best name that you can get, but we're replacing the best name that you can get with like a regular name.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that I try to be fair and balanced in all things. I agree with you. But when I talk to Muslims and they say the Ummah and Islam above all things, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Saudi Arabia is literally bombing Yemen. Literally. Like,
Another politic thing. It's not related to Islam. Like, Andrew Tate have been Muslim for about 3 years, and he never bothered himself one day to open a book and read, and he even took a Quran with him to the jail and he read it. I don't know why he's like having these questions. Like, you already know these people acting against the order of God, yeah, the teachings of God. They're already acting against it, yeah. So you clearly know this is political. Why you're just speaking about this?
I feel like there's a degree of hypocritical talk that we use, but we don't talk about it really with other Muslims because we understand it. But when we come to Christians, we come along and say, you should just.
The thing is that Andrew know that already his card is burned. They were like following him, listening to him, whatever he says. So, and he served jail for it like several months. So he already like doesn't care, but he's asking these questions so he can like make other speaks against some countries.
Accept everyone. You should, like, you know, as long as they're Christian. I feel like it's hypocritical, and I feel like it's just another attack we use on Christians. The problem with the Christian faith is that it's based on forgiveness. It's based on endless tolerance. That's what
Yeah, tolerate. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
it's based on. So I feel like in many ways Christians are easy to take advantage of. I don't know if you saw our protest when we protested what they said they did about Jesus at the Olympics. I'm in the most Christian nation in the world. It took me and my brother to do that. And the other Christians I knew, I was telling them about it, and they were all like, yeah, you know, they'll see in the afterlife. It's very placid. There's too many cheeks to turn. And I just feel like sometimes when we talk to Christians as Muslims or people,
It's because of the creed. Like, they don't have this very strong stance on the creed, because they don't have like this strong creed, like having absolute certainty that this thing is correct. No, they don't have that. As Muslims, we have absolute certainty. It's called ilm al-yaqeen, which is the absolute certainty. So we have absolute certainty this is the truth. So when we speak like from the heart. We speak from our mind. We speak from like the truthfulness.
people in general, when you talk to Christians, you're just weaponizing their tolerance against them. And especially sometimes it can be hypocritical. I'm trying to think of an Islamic nation where I can turn up and say, well, I'm a Muslim, just let me in. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Right, but that's not that shouldn't be representative of Islam, because one thing we all agree upon, even if the leaders they make mistakes, and we all make mistakes, the leaders are not representative
Correct.
of the religion as a whole.
Yeah.
So we all understand, even though that Saudi may be bombing Yemen or there's divisions between Shia Sunni,
Thank
we
you.
still believe that there's nothing that is supposed to unite us besides Islam. That's always going to supersede nationalism.
Well, yeah, and we believe that as Christians, but we also believe in nations. You know, Catholicism, if you look at the Christian religion, it's very against the idea of globalism. It's against the idea of global government. It's against the Tower of Babel.
And it's a test for each person. As I said, it's one by one like test. Like each one of us will be held accountable in front of God. And so the one who is responsible to shoot these bombs, he will be standing in front of God. He will be accountable for why you pressed the button, why you aimed this weapon, why you held the trigger. Yeah. So each person will be held accountable of his actions. Yeah. So yeah, and people will be affected by this, and this is not easy. Like you will be tested. Allah says, أَفَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يَفْتَنُونَ. Do the people think that they said we believed and they will not be tested? So as long as you believed, it's not like you're not gonna get tested, or you're not gonna face hardships or tests. Yeah, for example, for a rich person, his test is with his money, how he earned this money, what's he going to do with his money. For a poor person, his test with this poorness. For a person with influence, he's going to be tested with his influence. Did he use his influence with good things, or he promoted homosexual things like pride or whatever, colorful flags? And for a person with force, for example, with army, with munition, with rockets, he's gonna be tested with that. Did he serve his did he do the right thing on the right time or not? Yeah, it's just a bunch of free wills on every second. So every second, each one of us have a free will to choose to do wrong or right. Yeah, and we will be held accountable on every single action we do.
It is a story of tribes, and it is true that, you know, Christ came and said, you know, you're neither Greek nor Jew, and man and woman. But that's true in a spiritual sense. We are still men and women. We are still Jew and Greek, or Jew and Gentile, and we are still one nation and another nation. And, you know, it's interesting about the Israelis. They wrote something in the 80s. There's an article that was written back then by this guy named Oded Yanan, and he analyzed all the weaknesses of the Muslim countries. He actually said, he was a senior advisor to someone who eventually became the prime minister. He said, actually, the real threat to Israel aren't the Muslim countries at all. He said it's moral relativism, it's communism, it's nuclear weapons. He said Muslim countries are only the imminent threat. He said, but they will never last. And in each case, he said the systemic weaknesses of every Muslim country was their diversity. He said Syria has Alawites, Kurds, and Sunnis. Iraq has Sunni, Shia, and Kurds. He said Lebanon is realistically like 5 countries in one. He said Saudi Arabia is not even a real country. It's all these tribes and foreign workers ruled over by a very precarious king. Egypt has way too many Christians. Libya has a small population.
I think that's the original story. That's how United Arab Emirates, UAE, like Emirates, started, because they were like tribes. They were separated. They were fighting each other, and then they got united. So I think this is the greatest move like they did. So yeah, as he said, like this, if they want to fight someone, they need to divide them.
And this guy, and this is formed the basis of Israeli foreign policy. This is your Iraq war, Syrian civil war. He said, we're going to systematically rip apart these countries on the basis of their diversity. And so I think that, look, if we want to...
Yep, that was US who did the civil war in 2006 in Iraq. I can say that.
Organize as human beings into strong, stable, healthy societies, homogeneity is a part of it. It's conducive to a community. It's conducive to a good way of living, to have people with commonality. And there's something that's good and there's something that's decent about that, seeing race as extended family. I think that's part of honor your mother and father. Are you really honoring your mother and father if you intermarry and dump all their traditions? Your parents are one way, you marry somebody else. Now your kids are some completely different culture, different color, different everything. There's something that strikes me as wrong about that. So, and it's true, Islam, the Muslim world is not globalist at all. It's very nationalistic. It's extremely tribalistic. It's sectarian. There's big religious differences. And so, that's something, ironically, people like Destiny, like liberals will say, oh, you're Christian? Well, what do you want to live in, a country with 100 million white atheists or 100 million black Christians? And they think that's like a gotcha. But it's like, I'd rather live in the country with the white people, and then I'd like to evangelize them because I'm white and I think white people should exist. The real question is, do you think white people should be genocided, or do you not? And I don't think there's anything Christian about saying they should. I don't think God would smile upon that, especially given that, white people evangelize the world and systematize the religion and so on. So it is like kind of an anti-white. The thing, like, they're not running out of Arabs. They're always making more Arabs. White people are in short supply. You'd probably feel differently if it was reversed.
That's true. But would you
You're
say
not
the
Arab,
same
though.
thing if you couldn't evangelize the white atheists? Would the answer stay the same?
Well, that's at that point, it's like a would you rather with this conditional. If you couldn't evangelize whites and it had to be all whites or all blacks.
If they stayed atheists.
I don't know. Well, that would just be impossible because we believe that everybody's receptive to the grace of God. So it's just like, it's a hypothetical that's impossible.
That's fair. I mean, the pushback, I think it was small. I mean, people have seen the war that's going on Twitter. And I think it all started from the cat eating videos and the dog eating videos, and then that video of Trump going around saying they're eating the dogs, eating the cats. The major pushback, and people started saying I'm a sellout, which is that there was no evidence of that happening. Like, I'm not saying that we should allow refugees to go. There's no evidence of that.
But there is, though.
No, the video that went around that went viral was an African-American woman. It was a black woman. It wasn't even a Haitian. There's no specific evidence of Haitians eating cats and dogs in America. No,
yes, there is. If you look, you could find it for sure. There's 100%.
Show me.
I mean, it's on X. You look through X, you can find anything nowadays.
The video that went viral that then Trump started talking about at the debate, that was an African-American woman.
I'm just saying in general, you could definitely find videos of that, 100%.
Of Haitians eating cats in America?
100%. I can find one right now, bro, if I wanted to. Someone in my community could find it.
And actually, I'd argue, just my last bit on this point, even if I find videos of Haitians eating cats in Haiti, I don't want 6% of the Haitian population over in America.
Facts.
It doesn't matter where they are. If they're doing it anywhere, I don't want the people who eat cats near my daughter's cat here.
This is the thing. Where did you get this morality from? Is this like subjective to you, or is it that your religion telling you you shouldn't be doing this? Yeah, you should you should be like having a source of morality.
Yeah, I think.
Which is the objective morality of Islam.
Also, one of the things we're overlooking here, you talk about.
So whatever good law that you want to put on or you want to write it down, you'll already find it's written in the Quran. Yeah.
religion, you talk about nationalism, and we talk about, race a lot. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to feel an affinity to the people around you. Humans are social creatures. So when we try and get Nick with this question, do you want to be the only outcast in a society? Well, not really. I mean, I'd like to feel affinity with the people around me. And if they look like me, I feel more affinity to them. I think that's kind of an unfair question. But the other point I want to make here is, I feel like a lot of it is just simply down, because we talk about religion, we talk about countries, we talk about all these different things, but really it's down to just interest. You need to have a common interest as a population. I said earlier about a football team. You can have a football team of different races and religions because they have a common interest and a common goal. And I think what the West is losing now is we don't have a common interest and a common goal, which is what makes the melting pot such a problem. Because when you don't have a common interest and common goal, perhaps you can find a common interest in something as banal and simple and easy to see as race. Race is very easy to observe. Religion's very easy. It's easy. They're the same as me. They're the same as me. The same as me. That wasn't as important when you had a common goal. If you think about, the point I'm getting to with this, which is kind of unfortunate, is I feel like one of the only things that unifies people truly is struggle. Because if you look at Iran has a massive problem with different ethnicities. But the reason they manage to keep it all under control is because it's us versus them. They have an enemy. And when you unify everybody behind an enemy, you can unify the population. Russia the same. Russia has crazy amounts of ethnicities and religions and languages and time zones. But they have enemies. It's Russia versus the world. So when you have an enemy that is formidable, you can unify people behind one ideal. And when you unify people behind one ideal, race, religion become a lot less important because they have a common goal, a common objective. So perhaps in the West, I know I love these conversations about mass remigration, all this stuff. It's a nice conversation, but it's never going to happen. Never in a million years. So surely it's more constructive to say, well, then we need a common goal of some sort that everybody buys into. The problem is that's difficult when you have people with different versions of history and different religions and different cultural backgrounds and different languages and different upbringings and then it becomes a lot more difficult. But you need something that's unifying people at least.
There's a massive difference to me, having lived all over the world, and I'm a nomad. I'm half black, quarter Irish, but I'm a mongrel who's a mix of everything. So I understand that the white nationalists hate me and the black BLM people hate me, and I don't fit in anywhere, and that's fine. But as a man who's observed the world from all these various perspectives, there's a huge difference between Western white people and Eastern white people. And what Western white people need to learn from Eastern white people is this. See, Nick, you're white, and British and French and Spanish will be like, oh, well, we're white, and blacks are coming to our country. And go up to a Romanian and say, hey, bro, where are you from? You look Hungarian. To you, that doesn't make any difference. They will try to punch you in the face. They have this nationalism where go to a Serb and say, bro, you from Bosnia? You Albanian? What Albanians? Is Kosovo part of Serbia? They will lose their fucking minds, right? Eastern white people have this, like Andrew was saying about these thick cultures and these traditions. They're not just a bunch of white people who can be replaced by black people. Polish people are Polish people, and they don't want Romanians in their country. Romania has a border with Bulgarians. How many Bulgarians have you ever seen in this country in 10 years? Zero, because they can't fucking stand each other. No, we're Latins, you're Slavs. To you guys, I completely get it. They look the same. They look the same to me. They've got some of the same last names and some of the same traditions, etc. But here they're extremely very different. I think the West needs to bring this back, because before we start looking at things, I'll speak as a British man for a moment, before we start looking at things of, oh, well, he's black, he's white, it's fine to be here. No, why the fuck should the French be allowed to be here? This is England. In fact, when the Eurotunnel was being built, everyone forgets this, because it was lost just 1.5, 2 generations ago. When the Eurotunnel was being built underneath the English Channel, there were protests from old white men who fought in World War II, holding picket signs saying, no, let's not connect our continent with France, because if we connect our continent with France and they surrender to the Germans again, the Germans can march over, or even worse, the French could invade us like they tried to do in 1815. There was this old school, we're British, they're French nationalism that I think the Western white people need to bring back, because that's the first step of loving and respecting your country.
Yeah, but they can't. The problem with that is the problem with that is that it's interesting. I guess what I'm going to deduce from what you just said, though, do we agree that if America had a country that was all 100% white, that there'd be new divides drawn somehow? That there'd be, oh, well, yeah, but you're Northern, I'm Southern, or you're blue eye, I'm brown eye. Aren't humans just determined to constantly go into smaller and smaller groups and just constantly dislike and distrust the other groups?
That's a great point.
Romania has 3 or 4 groups itself.
Yeah, but we talk about the West and, white people in the West, etc. Only 50 years ago, the English hated the Irish. They couldn't stand them. Yep. If the Irish were in England, they were treated like dogs. There were signs everywhere, no Irish. Like, now, the English would do anything to be full of Irish. So it's kind of just maybe human nature is to constantly divide into smaller and smaller and smaller groups unless you have some kind of unifying factor. Then the real complicated question is, what is that unifying?
The issue of Israel. People see the debate stage. They see
now there'd be an X amount of the population who would be welcoming the threat in and saying it's a good idea for some reason. It's difficult because everybody thinks so differently. It's an interesting thought experiment. I'm just trying to understand how the world is the way it is.
Well, it's happening now. A lot of people from the left and the right, the first time that we're really agreeing on something major is the issue of Israel. People see the debate stage. They see J.D. Vance and Tim Walz get on stage, and immediately there's just a glaze off for Israel. Same thing, Trump right now. Of course, a lot of us, we agree with Trump on quite a bit, but we're wondering, why do we see an equal amount of Israeli flags as American flags? If you're going to talk about an existential threat that people are going to unite against, I think we're seeing it right now. And I think you bring up a great point about the constant need to divide ourselves, because even up until maybe 60, 70 years ago, Irish people were drinking at the fountain with me and Jake, and you, and Andrew and Tristan. Irish people were considered black too. Italians were not considered the original white people. I think the whites who founded America, or the new America, they considered white people back then to be people from the Slavic region, people from the Netherlands, and some people from the UK, whereas a lot of the other places, they weren't considered white either. So naturally, we're always going to find ways and factions to divide ourselves. If it became a strictly white country, immediately they would say north and south is different. They'd say people from this region. We're always going to find something. We're very tribalistic as people. The only unifying force that I've seen is the idea of God. And that's what was so great about Yay 24 again. When we all had this conversation, is what is going to get rid of all these problems that's destroying the West right now when it comes to feminism, when it comes to Zionism, when it comes to liberalism, is some sort of return to tradition, is some sort of religious doctrine.
No, though, I mean, the thing is about America, it's true. I mean, America was basically a white racial country up until the 70s. It was 90% white, and it was a lot of Italians and a lot of Germans and a lot of English and French and a lot of different kinds of white people. And, there certainly are differences between the kinds of whites. And even, like, for example, with Italians, there's people that came from northern Italy and people that came from southern Italy. And there's people that came from Sicily and people that came from Calabria. And there were differences. Even in Minnesota and in the Dakotas, you have people from Sweden and people from Norway, and they had cultural differences up there. But there's also this question of proximity. There's obviously a much smaller difference between Finns and Swedes and Nords or Norwegians than there is between Norwegians and Nigerians or Norwegians and Australian Aboriginals. And that's just kind of the thing, is like, America was a certain way with white people. You bring in a bunch of foreign-born people that don't speak English, have no history of democracy or anything that they had in Europe, Christendom, all those things, it's going to be a radically different place. I agree, though, with Andrew that America is an empire. Let's just face it. It's what it is. The idea that it's a republic or a nation is very old school. It's been an empire for about 100 years. Russia's a multi-ethnic empire. China's a multi-ethnic empire. The biggest countries typically are the ones with the most land because they have complicated histories and all kinds of things. So Russia does have a lot of Muslims. It has a lot of Mongolians. It has a lot of Asiatic type people. China has like 4 peripheral states. It's got Uyghurs, Mongolians, Manchurians, all of that. But there is an identity of the country. When we think of China, we think of a Han Chinese person. We don't think of East Turkestan. We think of Russia, we think of the Slavs. We think of Putin. We don't necessarily think of the people in the Caucasus. We don't think of the Muslims. And I think the same can be said about America. I think that that's how America was with whites and blacks. You had whites, you had blacks, you had some Hispanics in the South, you had Asians in the West, and that was kind of the family. But now the country is fundamentally changing where it's about half white, half non-white. And the fundamental question is, well, who are we now? Because now the people here, it is like a ton of Hispanics who got here within 2 or 3 generations. They don't speak English. They're forming ethnic enclaves. They have different values. And now here come the Asians. Here come the Indians and the Chinese. And it's like in 50 years, when the population's 30%, 40% foreign born, first or second generation, what are going to be the commonalities? It's going to be different religions, languages, cultures, ethnic enclaves battling it out. And that's where you almost need something like a segregation or a federalization, like an ethnic federalization, where you can still have a part of America that's white. The American Southwest, arguably, at one time it was a little white, but it was always pretty Hispanic. Okay, that's the Hispanic area. And Miami's like a Latin American island. It's like a Caribbean country. Okay, that's fine. But we still need places in America where you can go where it's like it used to be, where it's baseball and apple pie and stuff like that. And I think that's really the problem. It's not even necessarily that it's becoming more diverse, but that it is the forced integration, and it's like Andrew said earlier, there are black neighborhoods in Chicago. No one wants to go there. And that way of life is perfectly maintained. It's white areas that are being destroyed and eroded. And the idea that, if we lose them here and they're losing them in Europe and Canada, where are we going to go? It's going to be Asia, India, Mexico, Africa, everywhere in the world other than here. Where's our homeland? I think
America's lost something very, very important. And if we take England for an example, I'd start with the question: why would anyone be American to live the American dream? I feel like
the war in Russia feels threatened by kind of wars ever. In fact, if you get in a car,
fundamentally change the identity in the same way that, in Russia, they're never going to take away the Russian Orthodox Church. They're never going to slaves necessarily, although they should be grateful too, because they're not in Africa. But if the foreign-born came here and they were grateful and they were respectful and there was a sense of deference because they're guests or visitors or new, there'd be far less of a problem. It's that they come here, they burn the flag, they don't say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I've seen it in Chicago. Chicago was never a Mexican city. Now it's a third Mexican. They don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't learn to speak English. When it's Mexican Independence Day, like it was a week ago, they take over the city with their celebrations. It goes all night. They jam up the traffic. They're shooting people on the bridge. And white people go, hey, what the fuck? Get out. Like, you're a guest and you're being rude. And it wasn't like that 100 years ago. Europeans would come here and kiss the ground when they got off the fucking boats because they were great. So it's a lot of good observations. It's a complicated problem. It's not as simple as white.
What supersedes that is faith.
with
And
you.
I think
However,
that's
the reason for that, I don't know, am I cutting out?
no, you're good.
I'm good. Sorry.
the threat.
The reason for that is because you're so rare. If a million Arabs turned up in Bosnia, the Bosnians would have a problem with that. I personally believe.
And it's not just that. The point Andrew was making earlier about an existential threat to your existence, unifying countries together. They don't see you as an existential threat, Sneako, but there are Bosnians to this day with guns hidden underground, thinking that any day now the Serbs are going to roll across their border and exterminate them. They're held together in the same way North Korea is, that Russia is, that Iran is. You've spent some time in Bosnia, more time than me technically, but I have a lot of Bosnian friends. They are held together by this existential threat of they're going to wipe us out. So when you're there as a Muslim, you're not the face of what's scary to them. But Andrew's right. If 20,000 Arabs move there, or 20,000 people who look like you move there, they would see you as a threat. Their threat, their people they're afraid of look just like them, but worship a different God.
There also isn't many. A lot of it, people think that white people or Western people are inherently racist. They're really not. They just get pissed off when the numbers get distorted. I can talk from personal experience. Let me tell you about Romania. I moved to Romania 10 years ago. When I moved here, there was nobody who wasn't Romanian.
Nobody.
Everyone was Romanian. And back then, they were intrigued and amazed. In fact, they loved that I liked their country. They were super welcoming. Why did you come here? Wow, nobody likes Romania. I love that you love it here. Try some food. They were super welcoming. Now, as time goes on, more and more people are coming here. Romanians are starting to get racist. Why? I don't think they've ever been different. They're just seeing more and more people that aren't them. And now they're getting pissed off about it. When it was only me, it was fine. But when there's a whole bunch, then they get angry. And I think that's human nature. I don't think that these people have changed from non-racist to racist. They just see their demographic changing. And people are naturally unhappy with that. I don't see why they shouldn't be.
The reason that they get that way is because the people that are coming in, you both pointed out properly. I mean, because they're coming in, they're not respecting it. They're not coming in with the idea of God. They're not acting with godly values. They're coming just to use the place. And you brought up the example in Bosnia, if there were 20,000 Arabs that came in, they would feel differently. They actually did. During the Bosnian genocide in the early 90s, Arabs came to help fight the war against the Serbs. So that's a good example that although Serbs and Bosnians are technically of the same ethnicity, within that war, there was more unity between the Muslims there and the Arabs there. They didn't even speak the language. They came to fight there just because they saw that the genocide was about faith and it wasn't about ethnicity.
Just like when the Muslim guy who saved the family from stabbing, in the Leicester Square in London. So, yeah.
Yeah, but we also want to be with people that we are similar to, like when you were defending the Haitians, you were doing, you're speaking Haitian or something, Haitian Creole or something. And I'm sure that when you're with your parents, your extended family.
It's like some people doesn't understand the value of things or the value of others unless they lose them.
Family, you have this vibe of like a family party and you do things the way Haitians do or Philippines do or Hungarians do or whatever it is. In the same way that me, my mom's Italian, she was in an Italian neighborhood, all her friends are Italian. There's like Italian stuff that we do. It's like who we are. And if I were separated from that forever, if I were in a community where it's all people like you, no offense, I like you, you're a good guy, but you're not like me in those critical ways. I'd be a stranger, I'd be a foreigner. The way you guys do things, that's not the way I would do things. They're unfamiliar to me. And there's something like heartbreaking about that. There's something heartbreaking about being dislocated in that way. I think that's a big reason why white people are killing themselves, because they're socially dislocated. When you look at like all these other peoples, they take immense pride in their ethnic food, celebrations, language, culture. There's a real sense of family. Even if they're poor, even if they're low IQ, they're down to party, and they're party with all their abuelas and their cousins and all that kind of stuff. I'm partially Mexican. We do it too. We call it the picnic. It's a big picnic with Mexicans. That's what we do.
Nick.
Go ahead.
Nick, Jake, Andrew, Tristan. It's about that time, man. I gotta catch some Z's, but.
All right, we didn't get Myron on. I just saw the chat asking for Myron. Next time, let's get Myron in.
Andrew, I love you and I miss you, honey buns. And Tristan, it's all love too. You know what I'm saying?
Gay, bro.
Why do you make everything gay?
Hey, why can't it just be on some brother shit? Hey, Andrew, can me and Sneako come to Romania?
Perhaps. I don't know. Sneako called me a Jew, so I know he thinks Strickland can't knock him out, but he doesn't really want my smoke. We'll see.
It wasn't Jew as an insult. It was the idea of supremacy, but I understand that.
I'll say you are a Jew.
Yeah. Hey, and if you come here, I'm going to tell the cops it was all you. The human trafficking operation was all your idea.
The Jews did it. The Jews did it.
Oh, I got to go. The group chat's calling me now, so. All right, guys.
Okay,
you guys.
we'll
All right,
end
guys.
the record now, and thank you for watching. I think this has been 1 hour and a half. That's good. Okay, see you guys. Take care.